from 4 months ago. Right. Oh, you're talking about Samurai Remnant. I thought you were talking about a different Remnant game. Or Hollow Canada. I guess so too. While we're at it. That's hilarious. Sure. We can how long is this? 24 minutes? Let's see. If I start watching it now, then yeah, I'll watch this video as the last thing of today. Take a watch. Let's see. Let me pull up the chat box here. Chat box, color source, and then alert box. Yeah.
Okay. Why is it there? So yeah, 4 months later.
Give me a second. Let me know if the volume is good for you guys. I gotta mute Genshin, my Genshin client. There we go. Okay. I play Genshin, blah. Let me see here.
I can say that.
Okay. So yeah, let me know if the volume is too high or too low.
A bold statement, maybe. A very subjective statement.
Okay, let me restart the video for the fucking third time in a row.
I beat Genshin Impact. A bold statement, maybe. A very subjective statement, definitely.
Did he just say he beat Genshin Impact?
But I beat Genshin.
I'm not crazy, right? This dude literally said he beat Genshin Impact.
A bold statement, maybe. A very subjective statement, definitely. But I did it. A bit over 4 months ago, I started playing Genshin Impact for the first time. And looking back at my...
He beat Abyss? Beating Abyss is not beating Genshin. He appeals to the normies clearly? Yeah, obviously. Content creators like these put out these fucking grandiose statements like, oh, I beat this game, or I beat that game. Yeah. For normal games that aren't gacha games, I would believe them. But this is a gacha game. Hey, Pomfinator, how's it going, man? Yeah. Like, I don't know this dude, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he's actually done what I think he did, or he's done what I expect him to do. But as someone just knowing what I've done in this game, if this dude says he quote beat Genshin end quote, and I find out that he hasn't at least 100%ed all the maps, all the regions he's played. He hasn't leveled up every single weapon in the game. He hasn't leveled up every single character in the game. Yeah, no, he didn't beat the game yet. But anyways, let me try to watch this video without interrupting myself.
A bold statement, maybe. A very subjective statement, definitely. But I did it. A bit over 4 months ago, I started playing Genshin Impact for the first time. And looking back at my first time experience, it is funny to see what points I was focusing on. Like, remember when I was wondering if the reason why the healing statues have a limit is because it is going to be a time gate later? Well, now I'm just wondering, why is it there? So yeah, 4 months later,
good point.
I can say that after
not sure why
very
the statue's HP recovery limit is capped.
All the major story quests complete, a few reputations maxed out, quite a few 5-star characters on my account while staying free to play, and with the final floor of the Spiral Abyss cleared. And that's all while amassing 700 hours played. Throughout this journey, every time
we're reaching out to React content now too. Gotta start somewhere.
Positive about everything, but that's because it was all a setup for this moment. Because today we are not gonna talk about the amazing combat or the great events. We are going to talk about the garbage, and that goes for both the gameplay and the story. So strap up and get ready, because it's not often you can see me mad or disappointed. But today is gonna be one of those days. Just like it goes for every new Genshin player, my journey started with the story. By all means, the story is the true raw experience here. If Genshin does anything at all, it is telling stories for their characters. And that's for the better, or much, much worse. You see, previously you might have heard me saying that Genshin has some of the best stories told in gaming. Which is a statement I do believe is true. To give you some examples without any major spoilers.
No, it doesn't.
Raiden had some really strong points. Chasm has an excellent story with even better side quests, and Sumeru has some incredible hits, especially Nahida's quest, which is simply referred to as the loop. That one was amazing. But while these big moments in the story are amazing, the way you get there can be painful. The best example is Inazuma. And here, just know that I am going to spoil the very beginning. Which, to be honest, as you'll see, is gonna be totally fine. When you arrive in this beautiful region, in order to get to the great parts of the story, you have to run around and get a pass that lets you freely walk around. To get it, you first have to run around and help people deal with taxes for 3 hours. You then have to learn about the conflict between the local houses for the next 2 hours. Then things get a little bit more interesting as you learn about who Raiden is, before it gets to the part where you set up fireworks for 4 hours. Honestly, I know there were more chores in between these points, but my brain blocked out the memories because it's trying to protect me. What I know as a fact is that there was a total of 10 hours of setup before you got to the great part of the story of the region, which wouldn't be an issue if the payoff was godly. But truth be told, specifically in Inazuma, the finale was simply really good. But there is no way this can justify 4 hours of setting up fireworks. I know they were important because they were used to distract the guards, but 4 hours? And that's not even counting the storyline of the entire Commission War. A massive war that is supposed to shape the future of this region. But due to technical limitations, the game only shows us a 5v5 battle. So yes, sometimes the game can flop really heavily on the immersion, but that's not the point for now. The point is, sometimes the story can drag a lot, and that's for 2 reasons. First of all, Genshin relies on their gacha system, which means one thing: they have to promote their characters, which is how a lot of the time you end up with a lot of characters who are forced into a story. Not because they would necessarily enhance the story experience, but because it is a 5-star character. They have to give them as much spotlight as possible. In my opinion, Yoimiya is the perfect example here. Honestly, she is such a great character, but her story should have been her own character quest. There was no reason to force her into the Archon quest so brutally, and I do believe that might have soured the character for some people, which later got saved because she's a really good DPS. Thankfully, later, Hoyoverse realized that
I like how he uses Oyoimiya as an example there, because honestly I think Ayaka is a much more egregious example of that. Like, in the main quest, you literally spend how much of the main story literally going on a fucking festival date, a date with Ayaka? And then, of course, everybody knows the scene with her fucking going to that stream or whatever. And then getting, the whole wet socks meme. So, yeah. I'm a little bit surprised he uses Yoimiya for that and not Ayaka, considering you run into Ayaka first before Yoimiya, I think. But either way, his point still stands.
Forcing characters into the story no matter what is not a
Was that part of the story? That's what I remember, but it's been a year, so I don't know. Not for sure,
anyway.
anyway.
They either put them into events, which usually get their own stories, or for the 4 stars they give them the hangout quests. But then there is the other issue that Genshin has when it comes to its stories, and it's still a really big one. It is an issue that stayed in the game till this day. And that's the fact that no matter what conversation you are in, be it a big Archon quest or a lead up to what's happening in a region, in the vast majority of cases, they say a lot. And yet they say so little. I can't be the only one who noticed this, right? There are times when the dialogue just drags, which really sucks because this also happens during the big storylines which I really liked. Like, no matter what plot twist happens or what setup happens, everything has to be explained. Exposition is like 80% of the dialogue, What's crazy is that you can easily cut the dialogue in half. The story would stay, and in many cases, it might even be better, because it would actually help with the pacing. In movies and entertainment media in general, there is a golden saying that separates good and bad storytelling. Show, don't tell. A rule that tells the writers to show people what's going on and let them realize what's happening. By doing so, your viewers engage with the story from the side of the beholder. In Genshin, this immediately gets thrown out the window when Paimon appears on screen. And she explains every single tiny detail you might have missed with very long and complicated sentences. Like, yeah, Paimon actually does have some great scenes in the story, but this is not one of her stronger sides. And in case Paimon is not available, my favorite case of telling, not showing, is when the screen goes black and there is a text that pops up to tell you what's happening, like it's a silent movie from the 1920s. What's strange is that it is obvious that the writers on Hoyoverse are good. They are using proper setups and payoffs. So, are they doing this just to give the game longer content? Well, unfortunately, things get a bit worse. Because you see, while the...
Just to explain briefly, he touches on most of the main stuff as to most of the main reasons as to why. Most? I think I have maybe I have a little bit more to add there. But the main reason why the story is so long is because, remember, Genshin is meant for a casual audience. So the story has to be long because what the fuck else is there to do for a casual player, right? Like, casual players are mainly there for the events and the story and to roll characters, right? If the story wasn't long, then honestly, they would kind of feel like they don't have a lot to do. Because casual players are not interested in leveling up their characters and grinding out their artifacts as much as, you know, players like me and, you know, people in chat are. They're not really interested in doing that. They're also not really that interested in, like, you know, fully completing, like, explorations, right? They don't go around fucking 100%ing regions like we do. Right? They don't care about that. They want to, you know, honestly, that one Maxor video about it wasn't Maxor's first Genshin video about how Genshin is a fucking playable anime or some shit like that. Honestly, that's what casual players are playing this for. So MiHoYo is dragging out the story specifically, you know, specifically to keep the casual audience. And so they do that by dragging out the dialogue. They do that by dragging out the story to artificially inflate how much story content there is. It's as simple as that. Because again, because Genshin's a casual game, and casuals make up the vast majority of their player base. That's who they're appealing to, and they get most of their money from casuals too. So. It's very obvious as to, at least to me, it's very obvious as to why MiHoYo chooses to drag out their stories like this. Why Paimon exists, and you know, all that sort of stuff. Not only that, but specifically about Necrit's point about the Fate of Black dialogue stuff. That is because Genshin is obviously it's a 3D game, right? And so it uses 3D models to simulate, you know, what's going on. Obviously, it would be much better if they were able to, like, hand animate everything, but they can't do that. They reserve the scenes that they actually animate by hand, or like they you know, put more effort into animating, right, for the more important scenes in the game. Everything else, the vast majority of Genshin storytelling, however, is done through, you know, stock animations, default animations, and so on and so forth. Because they can't possibly hand animate everything. That'd be asking too much. But because of that, there are certain limitations that MiHoYo has when it comes to, like, animating these story scenes, because they can only use stock animations for most of them, and those stock animations can only do so much. So, like, on one hand, it's like I get why they have to put in so many, like, oh, fade to black, here's some text to tell you what's going on, right? And then, fade out again, and here are your characters again. But on the other hand, it's like, well, you kind of did this to yourselves, you know? Then again, at the same time, I'll admit that I don't know what a good solution to that is. I really don't know, other than like animate everything, and obviously they can't do that. So yeah, it's just one of those. I think it's just one of those unfortunate circumstances where like obviously we'd like it so that I'd like it if there weren't any like fade to black cutscenes where here's exposition, here's what's going on, blah blah blah, and you don't see any of that. But at the same time, I also understand why they have to do that. It's, again, one of those unfortunate things where it's like, we want it to be better, but but at the same time, what can you really do about it? At least I don't know how. Maybe other people might have suggestions as to how to improve that, but
Main story of Genshin literally has multiple days of raw voice-acted conversations. It gets quite bad when you realize that all the side quests are not voice acted, but they still have the same kind of long conversations. So should you venture outside of the boundaries of the main story, get ready to read. A lot. And I mean a lot. For many of you, this absolutely kills the pace, likely making you skip the dialogue and then look for videos on YouTube to tell you what happened. Or perhaps you don't care at all and you do nothing. Leaving the poor cabbages sad because their history is quite cool. But you see, when it comes to the storytelling, there is even more things that we can mention, such as events. In my opinion, the FOMO is not as bad here. At least that's because the pros outweigh the cons. With all the events that come and go, the world actually feels alive. It simply wouldn't feel the same without them. But it's such garbage that actually important lore is locked behind these events. If it was just a side story, for example like what happened during the lunar celebrations, then sure, you can have most of the story be the day-to-day casual jobs of your characters, while also having some important lore in the middle of it. I'm totally fine with that. But when the event itself is a core part of setting up the world, that's absolute garbage. For example, I have no idea who this guy is. I went through all the stories and then he just randomly appeared in the middle of an event and I'm supposed to know him? In my chat, people kept telling me that he's actually gonna spoil a really important part of the story. And I'm just sitting here thinking, I just wanna play the game. Not to mention that even after I finished the event where he appeared, because I had no context for his story, if he spoiled anything, well, I missed it. So yeah, events are great. The way they tell stories is awesome. But please don't shove important lore into them. I missed 2 years worth of events and apparently some of that story was quite important. But you know what? Enough talking about the storytelling. Let's move on. As I continued on my adventure...
What makes it worse is that Genshin doesn't rerun events. He touched upon the fact that, or not touched upon, he discussed the fact that events, a lot of the major events, have like actually lore important dialogue. That's because MiHoYo, I've explained this before, or I've mentioned this before. The way MiHoYo writes their story is very arrogant. That might be an extreme. That might be like an extreme outlook of that, but they definitely place perhaps a little bit too much emphasis on their story and their lore. Again, it kind of ties back to their whole like, oh, they want to like wow their casual players because the story is most of the content for this game that they're going to consume. But at the same time, it's like, well, because they're doing that, because they're placing so much emphasis on their story, that means that it's inevitable that they treat their events as part of the story too. And so that's why we don't get reruns for events, because it doesn't make sense for them to, right? Every single, for example, one of the few recurring events we have is like, Lantern Rite every year. It just, comes up in different names, but we know what it is. It's Chinese New Year. But we've even for the Chinese New Year events, there's not been a single one that's that's a rerun. Genshin doesn't get reruns because MiHoYo wants to do their best, like make Genshin's world feel as organic as possible, which is fine, right? I mean, Necrit even mentioned it himself. It makes Genshin's world feel, alive and shit, right? The word I used just now was organic, which again on its own, there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, it's like, the reason why event reruns are bad is because, as a new player, I'm sure Necrit's already missed out on a couple of kind of pretty good 4-star weapons, I would say. I don't think Necrit really cares about that part too much, but because he cares more about like there being important story lore being locked behind events. Like these things MiHoYo could like mitigate or like let me mute my second PC. MiHoYo could do things to well, what's the word that I'm looking for here? To sort of rectify the situation, kind of. Like, you don't need to have reruns, especially given that this is clearly how MiHoYo wants to treat their story, or that's how they want to conduct their story. But at the very least, give ways so that not having reruns, let there be ways, put in ways into Genshin where, or put in things in Genshin where missing those initial events and not having reruns on top of them is not that bad, right? Genshin's story playback system is kind of shit. I mean, not kind of, it is shit, right? Like, it doesn't even play you back like the scenes, right? Like, all you can, if you want to go back and like read older stories, like Necrit said, you have to go onto YouTube and go fucking watch a video that somebody recorded for you. Like, you can't even go back into the story yourself in your own game and see what a scene looked like, right? Like, you can't do that for events that you missed out on because you weren't playing or whatever. You can't even do that for scenes that you have watched, right? For the main story that you have gone through already. It's just dialogue. That's it, as far as I'm concerned. Last time I checked, the Genshin story playback thing doesn't have anything in there where like you can physically watch the scenes again. It's just dialogue. That's it. So like, if you had these sorts of things in the game that could like kind of mitigate the situation, then sure, fine. It wouldn't be great, but at least be acceptable, right? At the very least, Necrit would have a way to, before he played the Albedo, before he played like another event that had Albedo in it, because he missed out on the first Albedo event. At the very least, his chat would be like, oh, before you play this event, if you want to know about who this Albedo guy is, you should go into the story playback feature and go like watch the all the dialogue scenes for his first event real quick, right? I mean, it'll still take him a good hour or so to watch through all the scenes, but still, that would be better than nothing. But Genshin doesn't even have that either, so it's like yeah, of course he'd feel that he would feel this way, yeah. They should have weapon event reruns. Well, I mean, that would involve them rerunning the events that they came from, and that's a big no. Just them returning those 4-star weapons somehow. I don't know how they would do it. Yeah, I admit I don't know. I don't know a good way for them to bring them back. Ideally, they would bring them back as like additional 4-star, like free 4-star weapons that you could forge, that you could craft at the forge. But for some reason, I don't think they're ever going to do that. So. MiHoYo also really hates the idea of a time bubble. I mean, look at how many quests require you to do things in a certain order. Yeah, maybe Necrit will go over this too in his own video later, because we still got like 15 minutes on it. Oh god, I'm also interrupting myself too much too. But yeah, real quick. Yeah, I also fucking hate that too. The fact that if you have like multiple quests going on, sometimes there will be a conflict where, oh, you can't progress in this one quest because we're using a character who's already in another quest. You need to go do that other quest real quick. So go fuck yourself. Yeah, I fucking hate that. I don't know that Genshin is the only game that does this. I don't know why they do. Well, actually, I do know why they do that. It's because MiHoYo is too fucking, high up. They're too busy fucking sniffing their own shit about their story to where they think that these things are necessary, which they are not. So yeah, it just feeds back into my whole, like, I think MiHoYo is very arrogant about their story kind of thing. I mean, hell, I don't know if Necrit will mention this. I feel like he already should have. But, like, the fact that this game, Genshin, neither Genshin nor Star Rail have a fucking skip button. Like, that alone should tell you everything. You can't skip our story. You have to read it. Like, holy fucking shit, the amount of arrogance and the amount of hubris you need to have to fucking force that upon your players? Like, nah, bro. Fuck that. Holy fuck, dude. Like, maybe if Genshin story were actually good and it actually were worth reading and not having a skip button for, maybe. But outside of a couple of stories, like, I'm sure, like, obviously Genshin's story has had its bright moments, like the Chasm story. Or, no, not even the Chasm story, specifically the Zhao event story. Right, where we had the event. I think that event came out with Chasm, right? Where we did a little bit of a deep dive into Zhao's past. That was good. The Zhao story was actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, because it gives you context as to what Zhao is like. That explains why Zhao is the way he is, and then a little bit of history, a little bit of a look into the history of Liyue up until that point, right? Because before that, we would constantly hear about, like, we only get like bits and pieces of Liyue's, the Yaksha lore or whatever, right? And before that, people always memed Zhao as, like, this fucking edgy emo kid who's voiced by Kirito, right? But then after Chasm, I was like, oh, okay, we now know why Zhao is the way he is. Okay, cool. So, but outside of those stories, like, yeah, Genshin's story is not impressive, at least not to me. Like, Necrit's a fucking, I don't know, I hesitate to call him a casual player, because he clearly knows what he's talking about. But I mean, if I were to compare him to me, yeah, I would still say he's kind of a casual player even still. And even he can see that the Genshin story is not great. It's not good. Right? Like, my first gacha game was FGO of all things. So, like, my perspective on how a gacha game story should be, or just storytelling in general, is, I have a pretty high fucking standard, right? We have, for any of us who plays FGO to any, reasonable degree, and we've read the stories in FGO, or we keep up with FGO's story, yeah, we have a really high fucking bar. And, yeah, Genshin just can't come close to that. It just doesn't clear it at all. So yeah.
Through the story,
anyways, continuing.
The game finally introduced the Spiral Abyss to me. This is where I realized, I guess this is the end game, and so I set it up to be my goal to beat the final floor of the Spiral Abyss.
Yeah, even FGO gives you a skip on. Yeah, exactly.
My viewers were like, yeah, good luck with that. Unless you're a whale, see you in 3 years. So,
not wrong.
Being the insane person I am, to prove them that I don't have to pull for anything, I decided to do it as a free-to-play player. Which made me realize I had some planning to do. You see, it is true that at the beginning I got a bit lucky. My first ever pull gave me the Look, whose gameplay I liked very much, so I decided to carry him with me to the end of the challenge. But the first banner that popped up when I was playing was for Hu Tao and Yelan, who are allegedly one of the best pyro carries in the game and one of the best.
Great time to join the game.
And I got them both within like 20 pulls of each other. And after them, I also got Bennett and the Water Boy, which gave me a pretty good meta comp. So at that point, even though I was a free-to-play player, my account Certainly didn't look like it, which made me realize my free-to-play challenge is kinda stupid. Because what's the difference between whaling and just getting lucky? The difference is none, to be exact, but I still had to plan around my pulls. Because the Spiral Abyss requires...
Congratulations,
two
you beat the
teams
game.
to beat it. And even though my first team was really stacked, my second team was just random garbage. So if there was something I wanted to pull for, it would have to be for the second team. And
Random garbage, he says. Xiangling, Hutao, Sucrose, and Barbara. Random garbage. I mean, half your team is fucking cracked as fuck. Sucrose is still really good if you know how to use her. And then Barbara's your healer. What is garbage about this team? His ass ain't disrespecting Hotel. Yeah, random garbage, he says. Well, you know, like I said, Necrit's probably still a casual player, so maybe he just doesn't understand these characters. I mean, hell, he even said that, like, he when he was going over the Hutao Yelan banner, he even said apparently they're really good. So yeah, I wouldn't expect him to really understand these characters. So anyways, moving on.
And yes, at that point I also realized that the gacha system is quite garbage. But I kinda accept it for what it is, so at the end of the day, I'm kinda indifferent. It's like going into the liquor store and complaining that they have booze. Regardless, it didn't take long and I rounded up my second team, with my main carry there being Hutao. And even though this meant that I had 2 vape teams, I was happy. Until I hopped into the early floors to test out the team. And I was forced to see the truth. My eyes were forced open. Hutao sucks. It is true that she is really powerful and that she is one of the best DPSs. But my god, her gameplay sucks! To have optimal DPS, you have to charge attack and jump in the middle of the animation to interrupt it. Over and over
For
and
Caesar.
over. That's what you do the whole fight. People kept telling me, you know, it is what it is. To which I say, nay, that is not fun. I don't want to cancel animation my way to hell. And so, I threw Hutao into the garbage can and I benched her indefinitely. Yes, I am aware that I got lucky and I got her on my first attempt on the banner, but I don't like the gameplay. And if I don't like it, I'm not playing it. Of course, this decision started a bit of an argument. And this argument
Let's
made
hear
me
it.
realize that the Genshin community splits into 2 camps. Those who follow the meta guides and micro-optimize their DPS,
I like his
and
Hutao
those
hat.
who actually have free will and they have fun with the tools Genshin gives them. And of course, one of these camps kept telling me that without Hutao, there is no way I can do Abyss 12. Now again, this entire time I firmly believe that you don't have to pull for anything. And you can just really play whatever you want. So, I decided to rise a very stupid but glorious middle finger. I went on the internet and searched for Genshin DPS tier lists, something no mortal should ever do. It was
Yeah,
one thing
I
to
agree.
see Diluc lower on all the tier lists. That way he was perfect for me to play. But I also needed a carry DPS for the second team. Someone quite bad. Even better, someone who was designed to mainly be a support. Which is how my Candice carry challenge was born. To prove
Yep,
everyone that
Candice,
you should play
normal
what
attack.
you wanna play, and to prove that
I actually want to run
anything
Candace like that
works,
too eventually.
I decided to beat the game with her. And just like that, my final 2 teams were locked in place. But there was one more issue. Leveling up
Dendro
the teams
Traveler.
and farming artifacts was relatively simple. But I needed every help I could get, so I needed good weapons. My Diluc was using something usable, but Candice really needed some help. Which meant that for the first time, as a free-to-play player, I had to pull on the weapons banner. Thankfully, there was one that had one of the best DPS claymores in the game, but also a really good DPS spear. Perfect for
Is
my
Beacon
2
actually
carries. So I
that good?
started pulling. And oh boy, was it painful. Now, I wouldn't say that the weapons banners are a scam, which is what most people say. They work on the same formula as pulling for characters, except instead of getting 5-star characters, you get 5-star weapons. In fact, the formulas are a bit more favorable towards the
Yeah, I was about to say,
now,
like...
the reason why it sucks is because it is just not satisfying. Getting new weapons...
He also
is
watches
not as
MTash videos.
transformative as getting
Maybe,
new
man, I don't know this
characters with
dude.
entire new gameplay. And unfortunately, things really sucked for me because this was the first time my luck ran out. My main goal was to
How
get a
good is that on
score
her?
for-
Staff of Scarlet Sands. Actually, it's if you run the Candace normal attack build, it actually works. On paper, I think, because if you want to run Candace as your DPS, you can. Because you would run her with Hydro Damage Cup. You're basically infusing her own normal attacks. While her ult and her skill both scale off of HP, her normal attacks don't scale with anything at all, which means that they just scale by default off of attack. So the normal attack Candace build, for that build, staff actually makes sense. Actually, kind of works. Yeah, because it's crit rate main stat, so it's 44% crit rate, which is insane. And it converts elemental mastery that your character has into additional attack or something like that. So I guess you could run like either EM or attack, Candace, probably EM because that's what staff is for. So you could run Candace with EM timepiece, Hydro damage bonus cup, and a crit damage circlet. And he had Hu Tao on, not Hu Tao, Xiangling on his Candace team, so he can basically reverse vape with Candace on a normal attack Hydra infusion Candace build. Yeah, it actually makes sense. Like, I don't know if that's her ideal weapon for that. I'm pretty sure there's probably a better one. But there's probably a better spear for her to use, to be fair. But it at least makes sense. It's not bad. Like, the logic checks out there. Yeah, Homa, obviously. But yeah, he doesn't have Homa, so. But yeah, like, the staff would be good on Candace, assuming he's running Candace like I think he is. And if he actually knows about that Candace build, I would actually be genuinely impressed, because that's not something a casual player would think of. Then again, he did say he looked like fucking DPS guides, so I'm sure he probably read up on that somewhere. Hell, maybe even his chat told him about it. I don't know. Yeah, you run reverse vape Candace, something like that. But yeah, I'm not too sure how good Beacon would be on D-Luke though, unfortunately, because yeah, Beacon is definitely like a Dehya signature. Like, it's meant to be used with her, because doesn't Beacon have a passive where, like, it affects what is it? It like, its passive relies on the user, like, taking damage or some shit. So really, that would only be really useful on Dehya, because unless there's other people out there, unless there's other characters that actually actively, you know, benefit from HP losses, and we're only starting to get that with the Fontaine characters. And even then, I think Fremine is the only new Claymore character from Fontaine, and he doesn't really work like that. So even then. Beacon is still nice stat stick and probably better than Wolf's Gravestone. It's really hard to beat WGS, though, in my opinion. It's really hard to beat that. Because Necrit showed that he was using D-Luke with Bennett, I think, yeah, Beacon would probably be better, because that way Necrit can stack crit stats on D-Luke, and he can just give him attack stats from Bennett's ult. So I guess in his case, it wouldn't be that bad. But if you can't run D-Luke with Bennett, then having an attack percent Claymore would probably be better, unless his crit stats are just so out of control. And even then, that would still mean that you know, attack percent weapons would technically be better, I think. Yeah. And let's not forget Wolf's Gravestone's absurd passive of giving your whole team, what was it, like a 40% attack buff as soon as you hit somebody, as soon as you hit an enemy that's like less than like 50% HP or some shit like that. Like, that shit is absurd. Like, in my opinion, that whole team-wide buff, attack buff thing for, like, I don't know how many seconds, like 10 seconds or something like that, like, that tips Wolf's Gravestone's power over the, like, up above Beacon, in my opinion, but that's just me.
The look. So of course, after I kept off my pity, the first weapon I got was... painful, sure, but I went out into the world and farmed more gems. And the next stream I returned to pull some more. Only to cap off my pity again. And then...
Nice.
So yeah, it got bad. But with the pity system, at least this meant that the next weapon that would drop would definitely be the Claymore, right? Well, after a lot more farming, I kept off my pity again. But I didn't have enough to do my last 2 pulls. And this was on stream, and it was the last day of the banner. So I was forced into a dilemma. Earlier during my adventure, someone
Time to bust out that wallet, my dude.
Account 500 gems. So what I could do is just go out into the world and farm for 2 hours
Time to swipe.
while giving people really bad stream content. Or I could give people some good content, tap into the gems, farm it off stream later, get the Claymore and continue with the story. So, that's what I did. And just to be fair, after the stream, I farmed the gems and I kept them on my account until the challenge was over. And literally on the next pull, I got my Claymore. So practically, it is all as if I stayed free to play. Technically, however, I spent $2 to give people content. Do I care? No, it's a stupid challenge that gave me too many 5 stars anyway. So yeah, pulling for weapons is
Hey,
garbage,
we take those.
But more importantly, it's just not
You
satisfying.
fucking take those, man.
Anyway, to get my team ready, there was
Early
one more
5
thing that I
stars,
had
we
to
take
do.
those all the way to the bank.
Get artifacts. For the most case, that was easy. Or so I thought. You see, yet again, I found a flaw. But this is a flaw that was very unique to me. Normal players will never face this. Up until this point, I never faced backseating before. Every time I played a game on stream before, I was fairly confident I knew more than my viewers. In general, statistically, I am above average at most games. But Genshin was my first time experience. So I was looking for tips.
First
from time
gacha
to
game?
time.
First time?
Holy shit, that was a bad idea. I now understand why backseating sucks and why people hate it so much. In my case, it actually started with the story. At the beginning, to a new player, Genshin actually spits out a lot of names. Not only are there just many different characters by default, but you also have 3 enemy factions, the story that was supposed to be spread out over 2 years just falls on you like an avalanche, and there are also multiple villains with different motives. But throughout all of this, even though I was constantly mixing up the factions, and I kept confusing who's on whose side, I still had fun because the story was interesting. I simply enjoyed it. And that was an issue, because I was consuming the story wrong. Apparently, I was ruining my own experience by rushing the story, even though you can't rush a story in this game. Unless you skip through dialogue, you actually just consume the story at the pace at which it is presented to you. Like, what do you think I'm supposed to do? Sit down at home and think about what I just witnessed after every quest? For me personally, it wasn't until Sumeru that things really clicked together. But for some people, that was too late and I was a lost cause. All while I was having a blast. So yeah, I got backseated on how to consume the story of a video game.
And like I mentioned about MiHoYo being very arrogant about their story, that doesn't help. Yeah. That's pretty fucking absurd. Like, backseating gameplay is one thing. It happens all the time. Backseating somebody because you think that they're not consuming, then they're not, like, enjoying a story the right way. Like, bro, he's not even, like, fucking spam clicking and spamming the F key to go through all the dialogue because he doesn't give a shit like I do. Like, I do that shit. I do not care about Genshin's story at all at this point. 3 years in, right? So I just skip through everything. It doesn't really matter to me. Sometimes I'll watch some of the new. I've watched some of the new Fontaine main quest on stream a little bit, but that was on stream. If I'm not on stream, I'm just gonna skip through everything. Or unless there's like a character that I really like, and I just want to hear them talk. But outside of those, yeah, I don't care. I don't give a shit. So it's like, yeah, I'll just skip through everything. Well, skip through everything, even though there's no skip button. So yeah, like, bro, I don't know who needs to hear this, but I'll say it anyway. Play the game however the fuck you want, as a casual, as a hardcore, whatever fucking tickles your dick, or your pussy, whatever, man. Do whatever you want, whatever makes you happy. Even if you don't understand everything that's going on, as long as you're having fun, that's all there is to it. That's all you gotta. That's all that matters. So yeah. If you enjoy the story by consuming all the lore, you know, doing deep dives on what the fuck is going on in Genshin, you do you, man. Right? I ain't out here like roasting lore experts or whatever, right? Because I mean, you know, that'd be kind of hypocritical, obviously. But at the same time, if you choose to, you know, just skip through everything because you don't want to read the story for whatever reason, that's your business. I don't give a fuck. But yeah, Genshin being what it is, or the community being what it is, and also the game itself being what it is too. Yeah, that shouldn't happen, but at the same time, yeah, I'm not surprised that Necrit had to go through that. Yeah. This community is something, man. That arrogance transfers over to the player base. It would have the player base, even in a timeline, in an alternate universe where MiHoYo games, well, specifically Genshin and Star Rail, did have skip buttons, there will be, assuming that Genshin was still as popular as it is in this world, in this universe, in our current timeline. Yeah, you will, even in an alternate timeline where there did exist a skip button, you would still have some people, you would still have a, you know, number of people out there who are very anal about like, oh, you must read the story this way, or you must properly enjoy the story because MiHoYo put in so much work and you're wasting their effort if you don't read the story properly. Bullshit like that. But there wouldn't be as many. There just wouldn't be as many. So the fact that there is no skip button, the fact that MiHoYo like fucking puts their story on such a high goddamn pedestal, it doesn't help. Certainly doesn't. So yeah, I'm sure most Genshin players, and that's a generalization if I've ever made one, but I'm sure we have our fair share of Genshin players out there who don't really care, right? They understand that, you know, you do you, right? It'd be nice if you actually read the story, but if you don't want to, then, you know, nothing I can do to change your mind or whatever, right? But yeah, you will always have those vocal asshats who, if you don't play the game in the way they want you to, then yeah, they'll be pretty vocal about it. And given Genshin's sheer size, how many fucking people have played or continue to play Genshin Impact? Yeah, they'll be a lot louder than what you'd normally have to deal with. So, and even worse for Necrit, because Necrit comes from I actually kind of sympathize with Necrit in a way, because obviously my first game was FGO, and whenever I play FGO, I don't usually get backseated in those games, right? Sometimes I do, especially during the frickin' what was it, the final Lost Belt 6 boss fight. I forgot his name already. Oh yeah, Carnunos. Yeah. And during Carnunos, people started backseating the ever living fuck out of me, I think. So I just stopped looking at chat altogether. But yeah, like other than those, yeah, I come from a gacha game where like people tend to know that I know what I'm talking about, at least more so than they do. So yeah, I kind of feel for Necrit in this case, just, you know, in kind of a roundabout way, where it's like he goes from a background where he doesn't usually get backseated to where he's getting backseated because he's not reading the story right. Or some shit like that, I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely pretty absurd though.
But that's not the only kind of backseating that happened to me. Obviously, there were some people who corrected me on how to play when it comes to combat. To a certain degree, it was helpful when people pointed out the basics to me. But later on, some people just shoved facts into my face, which crumbled at the first moment I opened up the internet. And it was proven to me that yet again, on average, I should be trusting my own instincts more. And you know, from time to time, I even like to troll the people who thought I was an absolute idiot.
Is there a good one? Is there a good weapon for her? Or is there anything else that I can get that's better? The catch! What's the catch? Fishing. Can I just go and get it now? How long does that one take? Long? 2 weeks? Clueless. Where do you buy it? Why 2
Who backseats in
weeks?
Nutshell? Every game has
Can I just
backseaters,
get
man.
it? Can I just not get it? Yeah, I can get it. Where? What? You can just buy it. You need these too? Yeah. You can just buy these. What are you on about?
And so, with my team gathered up and my weapons ready,
I don't know what
they
the point of
came
that
to
point of
prove
that was.
everyone wrong. I unlocked the final level of the Abyss, and I went in with my scuffed team. On that day, originally I just wanted to stream some stories and maybe try the Abyss for a bit. But instead, I ended up grinding the final floor of the Abyss for 5 hours. After all, this was my
Only?
own stupid challenge that was preventing me from paying. It was the first time I faced that floor.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
have
He's
to
using
say,
Candace
I had
normal
an
attacks.
absolute blast. This was probably the most fun I have had in this game. It was like playing Dark Souls in Genshin, and it was awesome. It is true that around the 4-hour mark I took a break for 30 seconds and then I went right back in. And at the end, we faced Wee Nut, a boss.
He trolls. Oh, okay. So he pretended not to know about the catch, and then and he must have fished off stream. In order to get the catch, because he already knew about it, and then when he was going over his Shangling build on stream, his chat was like trying to get him to go get the catch for her, and he was like he just pretended not to know about it, and then he was like, oh yeah, I should go get the catch, okay, and he goes just teleports over, and then he's like, oh, what do you know? I already have everything I need. Okay, I didn't get that. Sorry, sometimes I can be kind of slow. But yeah, he played during the Wenut boss, huh?
That is notorious for stalling time. Something that my low DPS team really didn't like. But at the end, I did it. It was pain. It was suffering. But with my Candy Scary, I beat Spiral Abyss 12. With 0 stars and 8 seconds left on the timer. And I was happy with it. You see, this entire challenge was stupid to begin with. But since all my characters were fully leveled up, I realized that from that point on, the only difference between 0 stars and 9 stars are artifacts. That's the only way you can raise your power. And you know what artifacts are about? Luck. I could have prolonged my challenge to at least some stars. But from that point on, it's not that much of a skill issue anymore. It's just the case of having enough DPS to do it on time. And that pure lack of damage comes from the artifacts alone. Speaking of which, my 0-star Abyss achievement became a little bit more impressive when people checked out what artifacts I had, where more than half of them were at level 0 and my Dendro Traveler was in a wheelchair. Maybe that will give you some perspective. But yeah, what a stupid challenge that was. Don't do what I did. Speaking of artifacts, we are not done yet. Because throughout the entire journey,
Because, yeah, I've always said that if you want to do Abyss, obviously you're not going to be able to 36-star it. But if you just want to do what Necrit did and just be able to say you beat Abyss 12, really all your characters need are just the appropriate main stats. That's it. Like, if you don't care about star rating, if you only care about being able to say, yeah, I beat Spiral Abyss, I didn't 36-star it, but I still beat it, right? Yeah, all you need are main stats. It's literally it. Now, again, 36-starring is a different story, but, you know, I'm sure he'll go into it. I mean, he's already gone into it, and I'm sure he'll elaborate on it right now.
All of this got capped off with one more thing. The absolute king of triggering me. You see, as someone new, one could argue that I didn't have a lot of time to farm artifacts, which meant that there would be a lot of artifacts that were not perfect, but which were incredible for me given the fact that I was a new player, right? It would not be unthinkable to comprehend that I didn't have 2 years of time to farm artifacts.
3
That
years now.
When I got an artifact with crit rate and crit damage, it was good enough for me. That it could be one that I could use really well. No, in the eyes of all of you, it was all mid. All artifacts are either perfect or mid. A flower with crit rate and 80% roll into crit damage? That's mid. A great pyro artifact? Well, that's not part of the set, so it's mid. There were times when I was really happy that I got a really good artifact, only to look at my chat and see mid. And that just sucked. But not as much as trying to catch butterflies on my phone. That's far worse.
Yeah, it sucks. So, specifically about Necrit complaining about his chat calling all of his artifacts mid, there's a couple factors into that. He touched on one of them, which is how he's a new player, right? He hasn't been playing Genshin for fucking 3 years like us losers have. Us fucking degenerate no lives have. You know. Imagine playing Genshin for 3 years straight. Couldn't be me. So, yeah. A lot of the people who watch him play Genshin have been playing Genshin, or at least they keep up with Genshin, right? So, and not only that, but Genshin for the past 3 years, at least until Star Rail came out, has been a consistently popular game for people to stream. I mean, there are entire streamers out there who got popular off of Genshin specifically. Mr. Code, Slice, Mtashed. I wouldn't say Tectone, because Tectone was already a kind of a big was a big YouTuber before Genshin, but you know, that certainly it certainly didn't hurt. And so, you know, those are only a couple names that I can mention, but I'm sure there's a ton of other streamers and content creators who have gotten big thanks to Genshin. And they've been making content for the past 3 years, either streaming or making videos. And so the core Genshin audience, or at least the Genshin players who like take the time to watch streamers and watch YouTube videos, to any considerable degree, they have 3 years worth of Genshin Genshin content consumption under their belt. They're pretty fucking jaded when it comes to like artifact quality. Right? Like, you go into your average Mr. Slice or Mr. Code Genshin stream, assuming they're not, already streaming Star Rail for most of the week. And they, what is it? And, they'll have, I know, for example, Slice has a chat command, or, a chat, channel point redemption, I think it's what it's called, yeah, where a viewer can, flex their artifact build, and then Mr. Slice will put it up on his stream, and his chat will go Pepe W. Here we go again, another flexer. And so, yeah, we've had a lot of Genshin players, especially a lot of Genshin viewers, have spent the last 3 years grinding their own artifacts, working on really perfect ones, and then watching everybody else do the exact same shit, right? And so, yeah, and that alone is not a problem, right? As long as you can understand that, hey, Necrit is a new player, so obviously he's not gonna have, unless he just gets absurdly lucky, he's simply not going to have the same quality of artifacts as the rest of us, Genshin, dare I say, veterans do, right? Us 3 year players. And God forbid you've been playing Genshin for that long. Just no reasonable way you can expect him to have that. And so, yeah, while I don't blame them for calling his artifacts mid, because I know the context, it's still pretty fucking stupid that people don't seem to understand that, yeah, dude, Necrit's only been playing for a fucking month. Even if that. Maybe a couple weeks tops, I don't know. Again, I don't watch Necrit. I don't, other than, this one video that I'm watching here. Yeah, even if they were memeing, right? Like, even if Necrit knew that they were memeing, and he definitely knows now, like, it still sucks. Yeah. It still fucking sucks. Like, I wouldn't go into his chat, and if I were watching him back when he was like grinding out Genshin to make this video, if I had gone into his stream and watched his progress, I wouldn't be one of those fucks who type in mid every time he gets a sub 40 CV artifact. Like for example, his feather he has on his Candace right now on screen, that's really good for like a fucking week 3 Candace. It's got ER, it's got double crit. I mean, sure, it rolled twice into flat defense, but like, bro, as like a new player like Necrit is, that's as good as you can hope for. Again, outside of like just the freak RNG moments where he gets like a fucking perfect artifact. Right? I mean, and given that he was able to fucking luck sack Yelan and Hu Tao, then, you know, he might be able to luck sack an artifact too. But the truth is that, like, maybe if every character in the game only needed like one artifact, then sure, there'd be a higher chance of him to like pull off some really insane luck. But no, every character in the game needs five artifacts. And so the lightning may be able to strike once or twice or even 3 times, so they certainly can't strike 5 times in a row. I mean, it can, but you know what where I'm trying to go with this, right? As a new player, you simply cannot expect to have just like, you know, the literal perfect 40 CV plus artifacts that everyone else has at this point, because they've been playing this fucking game for 3 years. Because apparently we have nothing better to do. So yeah, I understand. I completely understand where Necrit is coming from, where, like, yeah, sure, his viewers are probably just memeing, probably, but it still gets really fucking annoying after a while, because these people, his viewers, simply just do not have the mental capacity to understand that, yeah, even though I know that Necrit is a new player and this is gonna happen, you know, they simply, like, don't have, like, what's the word I'm looking for here? The self-restraint? The restraint, from, they don't have the ability to restrain themselves from degrading his artifacts, basically. Yeah. Like, it's different if people like, if it's different if people were to come into my stream or Code stream, and whenever we get an artifact that rolls fucking 4 times in the flat attack, you know, they roast us for it. That's different, because we're used to it. But Necrit is not. He's not jaded like us, you know, hardcore Genshin players are. He's just here to play the game, enjoy it, and have fun. So yeah, for him to fucking go in here and have his whole chat just spam mid, or oh no, that artifact is trash. Yeah, that can fuck with him. I can understand how it fucks with them. It would fuck with most people. It would fuck with most people too. Like, the only way you would not get fucked by that is, or the only way your mental wouldn't be fucked by that is if you went into Genshin Impact with the expectation that you would play it like a hardcore game, like a hardcore player. But clearly he did not, right? He even calls this whole challenge of trying to beat Abyss as a free-to-play fucking stupid. So yeah, he clearly didn't have any plans on coming into Genshin to play it like that. So yeah. His viewers are fucking retarded. I'll say it right now. I'll use the gamer word. I'll use the hard R word. Yeah, they're fucking retarded. Though again, it's a different story if they were just memeing. But again, you should have realized that, you know, hey, Necrit, it probably won't be seeing that through the same perspective as us, you know, as us fucking losers who play Genshin Impact for 3 years, right? So. That's just internet culture. Yeah, true. At the same time, there's not really much you can do about it, but I guess my point is, fuck the Genshin community in particular. The Genshin every community is pretty fucking stupid, but the Genshin one in particular is a special breed of retarded. Autistic, even. That includes myself, too. But, you know, since we're watching Necrit's video and we're reacting to his experience, yeah, his viewers can go fuck themselves, and every other like normal, like, consistent Genshin stream viewer on Twitch or wherever, on YouTube or wherever, yeah. I mean, hey, going on a quick tangent here, like, Necrit's not the only one that happens, that this happens to, right? I watch, obviously I watch VTubers. I mean, you look at my fucking full cam, yeah, obviously I watch VTubers. So, like, whenever I watch, like, my favorite Niji Sanji VTubers, because Hololive can't stream Genshin, obviously, but whenever I watch Illyra, Finana, and the few times she does play Genshin, anybody any VTuber, I mean, it doesn't even have to be from Niji Sanji, any VTuber, indie or not, indie or corpo, whenever they play Genshin and they're not already like a Genshin main, right? They're not like Code or Ruby or Aoyama Mina. I think her name is Mina. Yeah, the girl who's tight with Numi. Unless they're not already VTubers, unless they're already VTubers who already main these gacha games in the first place, they're not gonna really know shit. And even then, even though it's very obvious that they don't main Genshin, you will still have viewers who are like, oh, put these artifacts on. Oh no, you have to use this weapon on it. Like, those people fucking annoy me to no end because they're like, these VTubers are obviously playing this game very casually. They're not really gonna benefit from having meta builds, right, and shit like that, yet they will still backseat the ever-living shit out of them. Like, holy fuck, does it really matter to you that much that your favorite streamer has to run the most meta fucking builds? Holy fuck. And I say this, let me put my own Genshin here real quick. I say this as a dude who not only has every single character in the game, with the exception of Oleg, because I'm still working on him. I have every character at level 90. I have all their talents at level 90, and everybody has their own unique artifact set. So that way I don't have to switch between artifacts. Literally everyone. Everyone in the fucking game. I don't feel the need to backseat the shit out of people. Especially streamers or content creators who I know are only really here to play Genshin casually. Or Genshin casually, yeah. I mean, hell, even for hardcore streamers, I don't even bother backseating them at all, because I know they're smart enough to figure the shit out on their own. And if they ever ask questions, there's usually 1,000 other people who can give them the answer, so I don't need to. So yeah, fuck Genshin players. They're fucking stupid. A lot of them. Not everybody, obviously. Some people are cool. But yeah, your average Twitch viewer or stream viewer, it doesn't have to be Twitch, obviously. It can be YouTube too, or anywhere else. Your average Genshin stream watcher is pretty fucking brain dead. And half those people, like, I mean, Necrit even touched upon this earlier too, where some people some people who were trying to give him advice weren't even giving him good advice either. Like, sometimes they were giving him advice that was straight up wrong. Half those people have no fucking idea what they're talking about either. They just watch, you know, Zajeff or any of the smart boys, the TC or the theory crafters, and they just fucking regurgitate whatever the fuck they say. And they think they know what they're doing in the game. Vox, that's pretty much why he doesn't play Genshin on stream anymore. Yeah, and it's unfortunate. To be fair, I would say that Vox should get some thicker skin. Like, you should not let a certain subset of viewers like potentially ruin a whole category of content for you. Like, I enjoyed watching Vox's gacha streams, right? It was fun watching him roll for new characters. But to be fair, like, I understand where he's coming from because I just explained this shit. But at the same time, he really, I think it's very unfortunate he lets those like annoying viewers like dictate what he plays. It should not be that way. But yeah, it's obviously the situation is kind of complicated. Like, everyone is at fault here. So. But since the focus was on, you know, the Genshin players, fuck the Genshin player base. I overestimate your intelligence. It's unfortunate that I'm the type of person who believes in the potential of humanity. I just don't believe in the potential of the individual human, but in the potential of humanity as a group, yeah. I expect great things, but yeah, it's unfortunate I kind of had that sort of outlook on life or outlook on the world. So yeah, Anyways, that was a cool video. I actually I went into this video thinking that, oh yeah, Necro would be just another, casual ass streamer who decided to dabble in Genshin a little bit, but no, he actually knows what he's talking about. Yeah, a lot of these points I actually agree with. In fact, that's not really anything that I disagree with, and I respect him even more now that I see he's actually managed to beat Abyss. I mean, he's a dirty luck sack, but he's not the only one who's guilty of the crime of being a dirty luck sack, so I can't just single him out. But yeah, I respect the effort. I respect the grind. Now, will he continue to play Genshin? That's a different story, but, He said he enjoyed it, so maybe he'll stick with it. I don't know. But then again, I understand if he doesn't want to stick with it, again, because of the community or whatever reason he has, so... All I can say is that I respect his grind. I respect what he's done here. This is a good video. Usually it's the other way around. The individual is smart. The group is pack animal, stupid, and prone to illogical nonsense. I don't quite agree. Yeah, sure. Because individually, if you're taking like individual humans into consideration, it's really a coin flip. It's literally a gacha. It's gacha, right? You don't know what kind of person you're gonna come across, right? You pick out random people from the street. You don't know how smart they are, or how productive they are, or how much of a good human they are, or how much of a good person they are, right? It's literally a wild card, so you don't know. But in a group scenario, oh yeah, you can bet your ass that typically in most groups of people, yeah, you're gonna have some fucking stupid ass retards in there. And like you can definitely see that in Genshin. Even if we're only talking about like the vocal minority or, whatever other social experiment terms that I could throw out here that I don't know about. He did continue, and he's now a whale. Hey, one of us. I respect him even more now. One of us. Yeah, mob mentality, shit like that, yeah. These smart boy communities, man. It's unfortunate that, yeah, like, I'm not like trying to like call out any theory crafter or smart boy in particular here. I just don't know them enough to know. Like the one that I know most is Zajas, because I actually I actually take the time to watch his stream sometimes. But like I'm not trying to call out any particular smart boy or theory crafter in particular. It's just that I do think it's unfortunate that like the community well, it's not that the community relies on them to like analyze new characters, because yeah, that's just how things are gonna naturally work out in the case of Genshin, with where future content gets leaked constantly, so we always know what's ahead of us. And as free to plays, it's in your best interest. It's in your direct benefit, or to your direct benefit, to know about what's coming up in the future, right? So that you know if there's a character who's good that you want to roll for in the future, so that way you can prepare ahead of time, right? Because time is of the essence as free to plays, because you don't have the money to make up for time. Or either you don't have it or you don't want to. You don't want to spend money to make up for time. So, yeah, it's just natural that, the hardcore Genshin community looks to the theory crafters, looks to the smart boys to give them answers for future content. I do think that it's very unfortunate that you have a subset of those people who look to these theory crafters and smart boys and then either completely fucking misunderstand what they're talking about, or they take their word, they take the analyses of these smart boys as like the fucking word of God, and they fucking try to spread it everywhere like it's the fucking gospel. Like, no, Genshin is a fucking video game. It's not that serious, bros. Like, I know Genshin is a big part of our lives, but let's be real, it's not that important. I know that's kind of a, an earth-shattering perspective for you to have, but it's not that important. Touching grass is more important. You should try it sometime. Like, understand that not everybody is interested in, like, the most fucking top-of-the-line, fresh-out-the-fucking-bakery meta builds. right? No, not everybody is interested in fucking grabbing, like building 40 CV artifacts like their name is Code or literally whoever else, right? Not everybody is like that. Just play the game however you want. And yes, that does include if you want to play the game like a hardcore player and max out all your shit. That's fine too. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that alone. It's when people think that they need to convince other people to play like they do, because if you don't play their way, you're some sort of second or third class citizen or player of Genshin Impact. That's where I have a fucking problem. Smoking grass, touching grass. I mean, do these people even know what smoking grass means? Yeah, there's a fucking gospel for you. Anyways, that's about it. Again, good video. And I'm glad that if it's true that from what somebody in chat told me, that Necrit is now a fully fledged whale, one of us, then yeah. I'm glad to see he's continuing to enjoy Genshin. And yeah, I'm glad that his viewers didn't fucking ruin Genshin for him like Vox's viewers did. So yeah, maybe I'll follow his stream and try to catch one of his streams sometime. But yeah, that'll do it for this react video. I'll probably clip out this part of the stream and throw it up on my YouTube channel to start my journey to become yet another fucking internet react streamer. So.